In today's session, we'll discuss the relevance of dividend. So, payment of dividend is relevant and it is very, very important. Now, this is basically explained by two models. So, we will be discussing the Walters model and the Gordon's model. In my previous session, we saw that there were many criticisms to the theory, hypothesis, who said that dividend payment is irrelevant. Now, this criticisms basically led these two people to write another theory, which was on dividend relevance. That means payment of dividend is important and it will affect the market value of the share or the market price of the share. So, let's understand the first model, the Walters model. Now, the Walters model are based on certain prepositions. The first one is Walters model supports the doctrine that dividends are relevant. So, he is supporting that payment of dividend is important and dividend is relevant. When you pay dividend, it will have an impact on the company's share price. The investment policy of the firm cannot be separated from the dividend policy, and both are, according to Walter, interlinked. So, payment of dividend and investment in the company both are hand in hand, they're interlinked. You cannot separate them, and you cannot say that if I pay dividend, if I don't pay dividend, it has no impact on the investments. It has an impact. The choice of an appropriate dividend policy affects the value of an enterprise. Now, how much dividend to pay, should we pay or should we not pay, that should be decided properly with certain justification. If you decide the appropriate dividend that has to be paid, then it will have a positive impact on the value of the firm. So, what is an appropriate dividend? The key argument in the support of the relevance proposition of Walter's model is the relationship between the return on a firm's investment or its internal rate of return and its cost of capital or the required rate of return. So here he speaks about two things. One is R, that is how much you are earning, what is your return on investment, and the other is K, that is what is the cost of capital. So he says you need to compare R and K. When you compare R and K, that is return and cost, you will be able to decide whether you want to give dividend or no. If you are earning more than the cost, then you can invest in the business and give no dividend. But if you are earning less than the cost, then you need not retain the earnings, but you give dividend. So the firm would have an optimum dividend policy, which will be determined by the relationship of R and K. So this is very, very important. We need to see the relationship of R and K and decide whether dividend should be given or no. So in other words, if return exceeds the cost, you should retain the money, and if it is less than the cost, you should give dividend. Let us understand it with symbols in the next slide. See here, it's very, very important. If R is greater than K, that means if your returns are more than the cost, in that case, you need not pay any dividend. You can retain the entire money and you can basically earn more than the shareholders. The firm is able to earn more than what the shareholders could by reinvesting if the earnings are paid. If R is less than K, then your return is lesser and the cost is more. In this case, you cannot earn higher return, shareholders will be able to earn, so you give them dividend. So Walters model thus relates the distribution of dividend to the availability of investment opportunities and the profit making investment opportunities. So if you have opportunities where your returns are more than the cost, then only you should go for it. So when R is greater than K, you call them as growth firm. And in case of growth firm, where your return is more and the cost is less, your dividend payout ratio should be 0. So when you're earning more, don't give dividend. Tell the shareholders that I am earning better than y'all, so let me reinvest the money in the business, and the shareholders will happily agree to it, because that will lead to maximization of value of the share. So final result will be the share prices will increase. But if R is less than K, that means if your returns are lesser and cost is more, then give full 100% dividend, because you're not able to earn better. You're earning only 7 or 8% and your cost is 10%, which is that means you're making loss of 2 to 3%. In this case, if you have a loss making investment opportunity, then don't invest in that. Give dividend 100% and tell the shareholders that because we don't have a good investment opportunity, we are paying you dividend, and the shareholders will manage to invest it on their own. And when R is equal to K, when both are same, We call them as normal firms. Whether you give dividend or you don't give dividend, it is left to you. So the dividend payout ratio can be from 0 to 100. Anything is okay. Shareholders will not get an impact because your return and cost are same. So either you earn or you give them, it doesn't matter. So these are the three rules which Walter has given, where he compares R with K, and he says if R is greater than K, give zero dividend. If R is less than K, give 100% dividend. And if R is equal to K, you give any dividend between 0 to 100. Assumptions of Walter's model are, he says all financing is done through retained earnings. External source of finance like debt or equity capital are not issued, which is not true. That's why it is an assumption. You cannot run the entire business only on retained earnings. You will have to rely on debt and equity financing. With additional investment undertaken, the firm's business risk does not change. It implies that R and K are constant. This is also an assumption. Your return and cost will never be constant. It will keep changing depending upon the risk and the earnings that you're doing. So, therefore, he assumes they are constant, but in real life, it's not possible. There is no change in the key variables like earning per share, dividend per share. The value of dividend and earnings will be same, and given once it will remain constant, which is also not correct. When the firm earns more, earning per share will increase and dividend also will increase accordingly. So you cannot assume that. And the firm has perpetual or a very long life. So this assumption can be taken because usually firms are assumed to have perpetual life. So these are the assumptions on the basis of which his model is there. Now the formula for his model, Walter has evolved a mathematical formula to arrive at the appropriate dividend decision. His formula is based on the share valuation model, which states that, he says, to find the price of the company, you should know what is the dividend divided by whatever is the cost of equity capital minus the growth rate. When you do this, you can get the price. He goes on adding many things to that. He says growth rate is nothing but R into B. R is the expected return and B is the retention ratio. So he's further divided G as R and B. So G is equal to R into B, the return and the retention ratio. So he has again rewritten the formula. So we'll not go into the derivations of the formula. This is the final formula of Walter. So either you can use this one or the below one, and it will give you, actually it is this formula, because KE comes down and P goes that side. So we are basically finding the value of P. So this is an important formula. Okay, so this final formula, which is highlighted in red, is used to solve the problems in the Walters model. Now, the limitations of Walters model. I hope you understood the Walters model. You have to compare R and K and then decide whether you want to give dividend or no, and how much dividend should be given. The Walters model explains the relationship between dividend policy and value of the firm under certain simplified assumptions. One of the limitation is he has assumed R constant, cost constant, earning per share constant, dividend also as constant. If we remove these assumptions, his model may not fit good. So that is one of the limitations. Some assumptions do not stand critical evaluation. They are, the firm's investment are financed exclusively by retained earnings. This was also one of the assumption which is not true. You cannot depend only on your retained earnings. You will have to go for external financing. So this is another limitation. The model assumes that R is constant, which is not realistic. Your returns keep on changing as the firm grows. There should be higher and higher returns. As regards the assumption of constant cost of equity, the risk complexion of the firm has a direct bearing on it. By assuming constant cost of equity, Walter's model ignores the effect of risk on the value of the firm. So these were the limitations of Walter's model, and this is how the Walter's model is, like how it basically looks like. So it was all about Walter's model. I hope you